You stand at the prow of your Nair, battered by roaring seas under a slate-grey sky. The deck is slick with salt spray, every plank groaning beneath your feet. Below, the precious bale of wool dyed in deep, exotic red shifts ominously, as if alive with its own restless spirit. Each knot undone, every creak of timber, could mean disaster. A pirate's blade slicing through the night, a sudden shipwreck on hidden rocks, or hostile clans waiting in the shadowed mouth of the fjord. Visuals flicker across the storm-tossed vessel, a lone trading ship, battling towering 20-foot swells. Close-ups reveal salt-crusted ropes, tightly securing the heavy wool bales. Lantern light struggling against the dark as oars crash rhythmically into the churning waves. The night air is thick with the sour temps of brine, mingling with the lanolin scent of sheep's wool. The thundering roar of the North Sea gale pounds your ears. Rigging snaps under tension, with each gust a harsh ratchet sounding like a death knell. This is a voyage of risk and endurance, where every breath might be your last. Tonight, we follow the merchants, who risked everything and, sometimes their lives, just to bring wool across these wild, unforgiving waters. Before dawn breaks, the rocky fjord lies cloaked in a ghostly mist, where sea and sky blur into a single, perilous realm. The Nair's lash-tide sail billows like a spectre, caught in the cold breath of the morning air. Against this shrouded backdrop, Eirik the trader, weathered and sea-beaten, inspects the leather seals binding precious bales of wool, fingers stiff from the chill. Nearby, Astrid the navigator studies a worn chart, her eyes sharp and calculating as gulls cry overhead, their calls swallowed by the mist. The tension mounts as Eirik tests a frayed rope lashing a strand of wool peeks through, threatening their precious cargo. With frozen fingers, he tightens the knot, a silent prayer for safe passage. Suddenly, Astrid's voice cuts through the haze. Rock headland, starboard. The oarsmen grunt and strain, muscles taut as they wrest the vessel away from hidden jagged shoals lurking beneath the waves. But fate is unforgiving. A thunderous crack shatters the fragile Comtha oak rib, splinters where the hull grazes a submerged rock. Seawater sluicing into the vessel's belly. With grim resolve, Eirik heaves a bale overboard, watching it disappear beneath the grey waves to lighten the ship. Astrid's gaze meets his, fierce and unyielding. Will survive or drown with our cargo? The Nar shudders, battered but afloat, slipping deeper into the mist as dawn approaches. Eirik's hushed vow lingers over the dark waters. No wool lost, no matter the cost. In this fragile moment, the peril of Viking trade becomes starkly real, a relentless battle between man, sea, and survival. Before the dawn of satellites and steel, the vast seas were ruled by wooden hulls creaking under the weight of precious cargo. Today, sprawling container ports hum with mechanical precision, cranes hoisting metal boxes, digital tracking screens glowing with real-time updates, refrigerated holds humming steadily. Vast fleets of ships navigate invisible highways, guided by GPS and backed by insurance policies that cushion every risk. But centuries ago, Viking traders faced a vastly different reality. Along a rugged quay, burly men haul heavy wool sacks lined with thick furs, their weathered hands gripping ropes as war axes hang at their sides, ready not just for battle but for survival. Rune-marked maps, inked with sacred symbols, chart uncertain courses over treacherous waters. The crew, bound by oaths and steel, know that every wave could be their last, while modern supply chains submit insurance claims to recoup losses from storms. Viking traders relied on something less tangible but no less vital: ritual and politics. Flames flicker as sailors offer sacrifices to Thor and Freya. beseeching the gods to calm the turbulent seas and grant safe passage. Faith intertwines with pragmatism, as coins change hands, discreetly bribes to powerful local jarls, buying protection against raids and ambushes. For us, delays are mere inconveniences. For Vikings, every unseen reef was a sentence of doom, and every day at sea a dance with oblivion. The salty spray stings their eyes, and the creak of timber feels like a heartbeat counting down. They gambled not just with their wealth, but with their very lives, facing the cold and the unknown with a courage born of necessity and kinship. This stark contrast reveals more than technological progress. It illuminates the raw human spirit behind ancient trade, where courage, faith, and sheer will propelled merchants across wild waters in pursuit of fortune and survival. The Viking wool trade was no mere exchange of goods. It was a perilous, high-stakes economy where every bale of fleece represented not just wealth, but a target for pirates, rival clans, and unpredictable seas. Visualize the Nars, docked at crowded harbors, their holds bulging with tightly wrapped wool bales, each secured with rune-marked bindings, silent talismans against theft and misfortune. The stakes were clear. One wrong move could mean the loss of a fortune or a life. These traders were masters of maritime innovation. The clinker-built Nair was a marvel of design, its overlapping wooden planks crafted for strength and seaworthiness, allowing passage through stormy northern waters. Cargo wasn't simply thrown in. Wool was meticulously sealed in oiled sacks, made watertight to resist salt spray and damp. Heavy ballast stones balanced the load, stabilizing the vessel and preserving precious cargo. This ingenuity minimized losses on treacherous routes, turning a fragile venture into a viable commercial lifeline. But the Viking trade network extended far beyond ships. Animated maps trace routes winding from Hedeby's bustling market fairs across rivers and seas, reaching as far as Constantinople's exotic bazaars. Some pathways were public, frequented by merchants and caravans. Others were secret smuggling routes cloaked in shadows, vital for bypassing hostile territories or monopolies. Navigating these webs required deep political acumen as much as nautical skill. But the Viking trade network extended far beyond ships. Animated maps trace routes winding from Hedeby's bustling market fairs across rivers and seas, reaching as far as Constantinople's exotic bazaars. Some pathways were public, frequented by merchants and caravans. Others were secret smuggling routes cloaked in shadows, vital for bypassing hostile territories or monopolies. Navigating these webs required deep political acumen as much as nautical skill. Risk mitigation was woven into the fabric of every voyage. Hostage exchanges, trusted kin held as guarantees of safe passage, became common diplomatic tools, binding warring parties with blood ties. Ships were laden with weapons, ready to repel borders. Before sailing, crews consulted runcasters and stargazers, interpreting omens and celestial signs to divine favorable winds. These rituals blended superstition and strategy, binding spiritual faith with practical survival. Trade wasn't only about goods, it was about alliances. Oath-brother ceremonies forged unbreakable bonds, turning potential rivals into trusted partners. Marriage pacts wove kinship networks across tribes and kingdoms, granting merchants the political cover needed to sail safely through contested waters. These guild-like social structures formed the backbone of Viking commerce, where trust was as critical as timber and sailcloth. Maritime archaeologists, economic historians, and navigation specialists now piece together these stories, revealing a culture that thrived at the edge of the known world through cunning, courage, and craft. As experts decode these ancient strategies, prepare yourself to board the Nar, outwit pirates and politics alike, and sail the perilous waters where wool was worth more than gold, and every day at sea was a calculated gamble. The Nar was a triumph of Viking shipbuilding, a floating fortress and cargo carrier, designed to conquer northern seas and shallow rivers alike. Visualize its clinker-built hull, where overlapping wooden planks, expertly caulked with tar and moss, flexed with the waves rather than cracking. This construction technique offered both durability and agility, allowing the Nar to ride stormy waters without succumbing to brittle failure. The ship's shallow draft was no accident. It enabled Vikings to beach vessels on rugged shores or navigate winding riverine routes inaccessible to deeper draft ships. This flexibility underpinned the vast reach of Viking trade, turning the Nar into a versatile vessel capable of carrying hefty wool bales and goods safely across thousands of miles. The camera lingers on close-ups of the hull's overlapping planks, their precise joinery glowing under northern light. The rhythmic creak of wood and the slap of waves underscore the ship's living character. This engineering marvel wasn't just transportation, it was a symbol of Viking innovation and economic ambition, forging links from northern fjords to distant markets. Keeping precious wool dry during treacherous sea voyages was a constant challenge, and Vikings turned to nature's resources for solutions. Picture dock workers carefully lining the cargo hold with sheets of birch bark, its natural oils, providing a waterproof barrier that resisted seawater and damp. Over this, greased wool sack soaked in animal fats and tallow added a second layer of protection, creating a sealed cocoon for the delicate fleece. This dual waterproofing method was a form of medieval engineering, balancing practicality and resourcefulness. Close-ups revealed the texture of birch bark's smooth yet supple surface and the sheen of greased sacks being stowed carefully. The salty air mixes with the faint scent of animal fat, immersing the viewer in the dockside atmosphere. These methods prevented the ruin of valuable wool by sea spray or rain, preserving its texture and warmth for distant buyers. The sensory contrast between rough wood, oily cloth, and briny ocean air embodies Viking ingenuity, a fusion of materials honed to safeguard wealth on every voyage. The value of Viking wool was as much about its origin as its fineness and warmth. Faroese and Scottish fleeces were renowned for their insulating qualities, prized by traders and nobles alike. Imagine bustling portside workshops where artisans examine fleece by feel and look, sorting for softness and fiber length. Nearby, vats of madder and woad dyes bubble gently, artisans adjusting pH with wood ash, mordanza, delicate chemical balance crucial to vibrant, lasting colors. Visuals capture spinners and dyers at work, their hands stained crimson and blue as cloth sways on drying racks under sunlight. The scent of earthy dyes mingles with the tang of wood ash, a sensory signature of medieval craft. This was an alchemy of color and texture, where raw fleece was transformed into luxurious cloth. Medieval artisans possessed intimate knowledge of natural dyes, manipulating mordants to shift hues from soft scarlets to deep crimsons. This expertise elevated wool from simple fabric to a symbol of status, worn proudly by merchants and rulers who understood that color spoke volumes about wealth and influence. At the heart of Viking commerce were vibrant market fairs, like Hedeby's renowned autumn gathering. Picture a sea of traders and farmers, voices mingling with the clang of metal and the clatter of hooves. Wool bales, marked with runes, change hands for silks, spices, and silver coins, exchange a thread in a vast commercial tapestry. Seasonal constraints dictated much of this rhythm. Ice-blocked rivers delayed shipments, requiring precise timing and daring navigation. Visuals show merchants unloading goods amid the hustle, while frozen river mouths threaten passage. The sensory landscape is alive with the sense of livestock, wood smoke, and market spices, painting a rich portrait of medieval economic life. This cyclical bustle connected rural producers with cosmopolitan centers, enabling the flow of wealth and ideas across Europe. Traders learned to anticipate seasonal hazards, blending skill and fortune to succeed. This market hub was more than commerce, it was a social engine driving innovation and alliance building. A crucible where wool earned its place as the lifeblood of Norse prosperity. Viking merchants extended their reach far beyond coastal shores, navigating intricate river networks that linked Scandinavia to the heart of the Byzantine Empire. Animated maps trace vessels threading the Volga and Dnieper rivers, gliding beneath arches of ancient forests and passing fortified trading posts. These waterways became vital arteries, ferrying northern wool southward while returning with exotic silks and spices. Visuals evoke the rhythmic dip of oars and flutter of banners, blending natural beauty with geopolitical complexity. Along these routes, Vikings encountered diverse cultures, exchanging not only goods but languages and customs. River trade demanded not only nautical skill but diplomatic savvy, securing safe passage through tributary territories often controlled by rival factions or local lords. The camera lingers on caravels docking at Byzantine ports, where merchants haggle and goods shift from ship to market stalls. This riverine commerce exemplifies the Vikings' adaptability, connecting distant economies through a blend of maritime and inland navigation. The soundscape mixes water lapping, market chatter, and distant bells, underscoring a trade network that shaped medieval Eurasian history. The perils of Viking trade extended beyond the elements to human threat. Piracy and coastal raids lurked in the shadows. Visuals reveal rusty arrowheads embedded in the timber of ancient shipwrecks, stark testimony to violent confrontations. Runestones bear inscriptions demanding tribute payments or commemorating battles where merchant convoys fought off attackers. These silent witnesses speak of a turbulent political landscape where wealth was both coveted and vulnerable. Pirates struck swiftly, ambushing wool-laden ships along narrow fjords or river bends, forcing merchants into costly ransom or deadly resistance. Visual reconstructions show frantic sailors readying weapons as raiders approach under cover of darkness. This shadow economy of violence shaped trade routes and alliances. Merchants formed armed convoys or paid jarls for protection, risk management that blended commerce with martial readiness. The sensory scene is thick with tension, the creak of boards, the clash of metal, whispered prayers for safe passage. Such dangers underscore the gamble inherent in Viking trade, where prosperity came at the price of constant vigilance. Maritime archaeologist Dr. Ingrid Falk and economic historian Professor Magnus Haraldsson reflect on the Nar's role in Viking commerce. Dr. Falk explains, Nars were more than ships, they were floating warehouses, designed to maximize cargo while minimizing crew risk. Her voice accompanies footage of excavated ship remains and experimental reconstructions, highlighting features like the ship's hold and protective linings. Professor Haraldsson adds, wool wasn't just material, it underpinned Norse prosperity. Every bale represented a bet on the elements, the sword, and political favor. The camera pans over a detailed 3D cutaway of a Nar, mapping cargo holds stuffed with wool, crew quarters, and ballast stones that balanced the ship. This visual synthesis brings to life the intersection of technology and economics, showing how Vikings engineered both their vessels and trade strategies to survive and thrive. The closing narration invites reflection. This blend of maritime mastery and economic daring forged a network that connected northern communities to distant civilizations, revealing trade as a delicate dance of innovation, risk, and human resilience. The mist clings low over the fjord as first light softens the rugged coastline. Gathered at the Nar's prow, the crew forms a solemn circle around the ship's carved wooden figurehead. The priest, his voice steady and commanding, traces ancient rune-ward glyphs into the prow's timber symbols, meant to shield the vessel from storm and enemy alike. Mead flows in golden rivulets, poured reverently over the keel, its sweet scent mingling with the salt air. Every rope is tightened, every sail inspected, as the crew's nervous anticipation hums beneath the ritual's solemnity. The wood creaks softly, alive with blessing and promise, while the horizon waits fast, uncertain. This ceremony is no mere superstition. It blends faith and practicality, anchoring the voyage in sacred protection as much as seamanship. The men's eyes meet briefly, steeling themselves for the voyage's perilous unknown. With the blessing complete, the Nair slips silently into the water, ready to face wind, wave, and fate. Astrid stands at the helm, her gaze lifted to the shifting heavens. She reads the cloud formations, wisps curling, like smoke signaling a shift in wind, and watches the flight patterns of gulls circling above, indicators of nearby land or danger. Her fingers graze the rune-carved wooden chart, tracing routes honed by generations. Below deck, the crew scrambles, bailing water that sloshes from breaking waves. Wool bales shift precariously, and sailors winch ballast stones, recalibrating the ship's balance with practiced precision. The acrid scent of wet fleece mixes with the sharp salt spray, filling the air with the reality of risk. Every movement is synchronized, a dance against the sea's unpredictable force. The Nar creaks and groans, a living entity battling the elements. Celestial navigation and teamwork are their lifelines. Without them, the wool, the voyage, and lives hang in the balance. The sun climbs slowly, illuminating the crew's resolve amid the vast open waters. Without warning, the sky darkens, and the wind picks up into a furious squall. Waves crash over the Nar's deck, soaking the men and saturating the precious wool cargo. Eirik's voice rises above the storm, ordering the sails reefed to reduce wind pressure. The crew moves with urgency, hands slick with water and cold as they furl the heavy canvas. Bjorn barks commands, his shield raised as he arms the Manax's spears, and shields ready to fend off any opportunistic raiders emboldened by the tempest. The air is thick with the acrid temps of salt and damp wool, mingled with the sharp, metallic scent of wet iron. Thunder rolls overhead as the vessel pitches violently, the relentless sea threatening to claim both ship and cargo. Water seeps dangerously close to the hold. Mold and rot are imminent foes. Sweat and sea spray mingle on the men's faces, exhaustion etched into their features. Every moment is a battle against nature's wrath, fight for survival, fight to save the woven wealth carried beneath the battered deck. As the storm abates, shadows emerge on the horizon, dark silhouettes of raiders closing fast by rowboat. The crew scrambles into position. Bjorn raises a shield wall on deck, shields clashing and locking like thunder as axes gleam in fading daylight. Wool bales, soaked and heavy, are hastily stacked as barricades, absorbing blows and protecting the crew's flanks. The sound of metal striking wood and leather fills the air, punctuated by shouts and grunts of exertion. The salty tank of blood mingles with sea spray. Astrid steadies the helm, keeping the ship maneuverable amid chaos. The clash is brutal and desperate, each strike a matter of life, cargo, and honor. The warriors' faces are grim, muscles taut with fear and fury. The Nar rocks with the force of combat, every creak a reminder of fragile survival. This is no mere raid, it is a trial by fire, a savage contest to determine who claims the wealth of the northern seas. Without warning, the sky darkens, and the wind picks up into a furious squall. Waves crash over the Nar's deck, soaking the men and saturating the precious wool cargo. Eirik's voice rises above the storm, ordering the sails reefed to reduce wind pressure. The crew moves with urgency, hands slick with water and cold as they furl the heavy canvas. Bjorn barks commands, his shield raised as he arms the Manax's spears, and shields ready to fend off any opportunistic raiders emboldened by the tempest. The air is thick with the acrid temps of salt and damp wool, mingled with the sharp metallic scent of wet iron. Thunder rolls overhead as the vessel pitches violently, the relentless sea threatening to claim both ship and cargo. Water seeps dangerously close to the hold. Mold and rot are imminent foes. Sweat and sea spray mingle on the men's faces, exhaustion etched into their features. Every moment is a battle against nature's wrath, fight for survival, fight to save the woven wealth carried beneath the battered deck. As the storm abates, shadows emerge on the horizon, dark silhouettes of raiders closing fast by rowboat. The crew scrambles into position. Bjorn raises a shield wall on deck, shields clashing and locking like thunder as axes gleam in fading daylight. Wool bales, soaked and heavy, are hastily stacked as barricades, absorbing blows and protecting the crew's flanks. The sound of metal striking wood and leather fills the air, punctuated by shouts and grunts of exertion. The salty temps of blood mingles with sea spray. Astrid steadies the helm, keeping the ship maneuverable amid chaos. The clash is brutal and desperate, each strike a matter of life, cargo, and honor. The warriors' faces are grim, muscles taut with fear and fury. The Naroks with the force of combat, every creak a reminder of fragile survival. This is no mere Reddit, it's a trial by fire, a savage contest to determine who claims the wealth of the northern seas. At last, the Nar slips into a quiet river mouth, sheltered from the open sea's perils. Ox carts trundle forward, their wooden wheels crunching over gravel as the crew unloads soaked, heavy wool bales with care. The air is thick with the earthy scent of wet fleece and fresh grass. Leaf steps forward, parchment and quill in hand, to meet the local Jarl's envoys. Negotiations commenced, all payments demanded for safe passage and permission to haul goods inland. The exchange is tense but respectful, a blend of diplomacy and hard bargaining that will determine the journey's success. Oxen are fettered and prepared to carry the valuable cargo along rugged roads to distant markets. The crew rests briefly, their faces marked by salt, sweat, and relief. The riverbank hums with activity, a temporary haven before the next leg of their arduous trade mission. The practical meets the political, as trust is brokered with coin, and the fragile web of alliances sustains the flow of commerce. Under flickering torchlight, the crew gathers in the ship's hold, its wooden walls damp and echoing with whispered voices. Wool bales are counted meticulously. Some show damage from the storm and skirmish. Leaf's quill scratches across parchment, logging every bale, every loss, every potential gain. The air is thick with the mixed scents of wax candles, salt water, and worn leather. Faces are drawn, reflecting exhaustion and guarded hope. Inventory isn't mere bookkeeping, it is survival, a careful accounting that determines their share of profits and sets the stage for future voyages. Eirik studies the rune-carved charts, plotting routes and contingencies for the days ahead. Crew members trade weary glances, tension lingering beneath the camaraderie. Outside, waves lap gently, a quiet contrast to the day's turmoil. This vigil anchors them, a moment of calm calculation amid the uncertainties of sea and trader, fragile pause before the voyage continues. Despite their care, moisture infiltrates the cargo hold. Close-up shots reveal dark patches creeping over wool, fibers dampening and darkening ominously. Crew members exchange worried looks, fingers running along the spoiled fleece with grim resignation. Mold and rot threaten to erode not only material wealth, but the very livelihood of the traders. The acrid smell of damp wool and mildew hangs heavy in the air, a silent enemy. Efforts to dry the wool are hampered by limited space and weather. The emotional toll is clear. Every ruined bale chips away at the voyage's profitability, testing morale. The sailor's endurance is stretched thin, balancing hope with the brutal reality of loss. This creeping decay is an invisible adversary, relentless and unforgiving, reminding the crew that nature's forces rival even the fiercest human threats. Long days at sea and constant peril wear on the crew's nerves. Whispers echo in shadowed corners of the ship. Arguments over shares, risk, and leadership flare beneath the surface. The close quarters breed both camaraderie and resentment. A grizzled sailor challenges Bjorn's command. Another questions Eirik's navigational choices. Astrid steps in, her steady voice quelling rising tempers with calm authority. Leif scribbles quietly, detached, but keenly aware of tensions that could fracture the fragile trust holding them together. The creak of the ship and the lapping of waves outside become a backdrop to simmering disputes. These moments reveal the human side of Viking trade, the blending of duty, fear, greed, and loyalty. The crew is a microcosm of wider society, reflecting the complex bonds that made Viking voyages possible. Underneath the noise and conflict lies a shared purpose to survive, to succeed, and to return home with wealth intact. As the Nair approaches a narrow river mouth, Astrid's gaze sharpens. She directs the crew with precise commands, avoiding submerged rocks and shifting sandbanks that could pierce the hull. The water narrows, currents quicken, and the vessel responds sluggishly under sail. The crew strains at oars, muscles taut with concentration. The low murmur of whispered prayers mixes with the creak of timber flexing. Astrid consults the rune-carved chart frequently, plotting safe passage amid the treacherous channel. The riverbanks close in, lined with dense forest and watchful ice. Local clans whose goodwill can mean safe trade or sudden conflict. The transition from open sea to riverine waters is fraught with risk and opportunity. Every movement is measured, every decision critical. Success here ensures the wool's safe delivery. Failure could spell disaster and loss of hard-won wealth. At the bustling river market, merchants shout offers and counter-offers amid the clamour of livestock and carts. Wool bales, now dried and stacked, change hands in heated negotiation. Leif, sharp-eyed and shrewd, bargains fiercely, his voice rising above the din. The crowd presses close, some watching with envy, others with cautious approval. Currency clinks, hands exchange goods, and deals are sealed with nods and oaths. Bartering is both art and necessity. Understanding the market's pulse can turn a modest cargo into a fortune. The scent of cured hides and spices fills the air, mingling with the salty sweat of laborers and traders. This market scene is not merely commerce, it is a theater of strategy and social dynamics, where trust, and reputation are as valuable as silver coins. Every bargain carries weight, shaping the trader's fortunes and forging alliances that will echo beyond the market day. With the wool safely traded, the crew busies themselves preparing for the return journey. Worn sails are mended under fading light. Patches of tar seal cracks in the hull. Tools clatter, ropes coil, and the atmosphere hums with quiet focus. The ship's deck is cleared and restowed, ready to bear new cargo, perhaps silks, silver, or spices, destined for northern markets. Eirik and Astrid confer over navigational charts, plotting courses that avoid known dangers and optimize wind and tide. The crew shares a brief respite, aware that the return trip holds its own risks, but also promise of home and reward. Lanterns flicker as dusk deepens. Night envelops the fjord in shadow, but the Na remains steadfast, a vessel of survival and prosperity. This cyclical preparation underscores the unending rhythm of Viking trade. Voyage, risk, profit, and renewal. Eirik stands at the shore, watching as the wool-laden caravan disappears into the distance. Lanterns casting flickering light along the narrow road. His face is etched with fatigue and cautious, a man who knows that profit was won on the razor's edge of peril. The distant murmur of villagers blends with the gentle rustling of night winds through trees. Behind him, the dark silhouette of the Nair rocks gently at anchor, its mission fulfilled for now. Each bale of wool tells a story of storms braved, enemies fought, and alliances forged, woven into the fabric of Viking commerce. Eirik's gaze lingers on the path ahead, knowing the next journey beckons with its own dangers and rewards. The closing moment captures the fragile balance between fortune and fate, a testament to human resilience and the high stakes of medieval trade. As twilight settles over the bustling river market, wool bales rise like silent sentinels stacked high against the fading light. Torches flicker, casting dancing shadows over animated faces as merchants haggle loudly, their voices weaving a tapestry of commerce and rivalry. This was no mere marketplace, it was a stage where trust and reputation were as valuable as silver coins. Each fleece bale carried the weight of promises, risks, and futures forged in distant lands. Buyers and sellers eyed one another warily, aware that every exchange was underpinned by unspoken rules, enforced by communal gaze and ancient custom. Market stalls bore carved wooden posts, inscribed with runes, reminders of the solemn codes that governed trade, fairness, and quality. Here, commerce blended seamlessly with social ritual, binding a scattered society through shared norms and mutual dependence. The marketplace was a theater where economic survival intertwined with human connection, where every handshake sealed a fragile pact essential to the Viking world. Under the warm glow of firelight, two traders clasp forearms firmly, a bead of blood mingling with mead dripping onto carved wooden tokens held between them. This was more than ceremony, it was a sacred oath binding lives and fortunes alike. These blood-brother pacts forged unbreakable bonds, transforming trading partners into kin through shared sacrifice. The solemnity in their eyes reflects an understanding. Betrayal meant death, not only to commerce, but to community trust. These alliances ensured safe passage through hostile territories, with each oath reinforcing mutual aid and loyalty beyond mere contracts. The blending of blood and mead symbolized life as fragility and the trust needed to navigate a perilous world of pirates, rival clans, and treacherous seas. The ritual's gravity echoes in every whispered vow, cementing relationships that transcended geography and danger. In a society without modern legal systems, these pacts became the bedrock of Viking trade, security binding strangers in a brotherhood stronger than steel. The market's wooden pavilion displays carved runic boards, their surfaces worn but legible, listing strict merchant codes, standards for wool quality, weight measures, and punishments for deceit. Merchants line up to weigh fleeces on iron scales, their expressions guarded but resolute. These guild regulations were no mere guidelines, they enforced fairness and trust in a volatile trade environment. Public knowledge of these rules discouraged fraud, while penalties ranged from fines to banishment from markets, an economic death sentence. Traders respected these codes as social glue, binding competitors within a framework that balanced profit with communal stability. The inscriptions served as constant reminders that commerce was embedded in social order. Honesty undermined not just individuals but entire communities. This formalized structure elevated trade from chaotic barter to organized enterprise, empowering merchants while protecting consumers. The guild system functioned as an early regulatory body, weaving economic rules and social expectations into a fabric that sustained Viking commerce across distant lands. In a grand hall adorned with tapestries, a wedding feast unfolds as Viking traders and local nobility celebrate the union of kin and commerce. The exchange of rings seals not only personal vows but strategic alliances, blending bloodlines with business interests. These marriages secured toll exemptions and safe passage across contested territories, transforming potentially hostile borderlands into zones of cooperation. The bride's family gains influence, while the trader's caravan moves under the protective shadow of kinship. This blending of family and commerce was a deliberate political act, reinforcing trust where written contracts held little sway. The feast is rich with symbolism, shared cups, exchanged gifts, and public affirmation of bonds that reach beyond profit margins. Behind the joy lies a calculated safeguard. Alliances formed through marriage became living guarantees of security, weaving social contracts that shaped Viking trade routes. These unions transcended romance, functioning as vital diplomatic tools in a world where commerce was inseparable from power and survival. On the rolling deck, under a star-blanketed sky, the crew huddles around a small fire, their faces illuminated by flickering flames. The air is thick with unspoken tension, pirates prowl, storms loom, and every voyage risks life and livelihood. In this crucible of danger, fear becomes the unifying force that binds the crew into a tight-knit unit. Mutual dependence turns strangers into brothers. Shared peril dissolves petty grievances. Wool cargo is more than merchandise as the collective fate of all aboard. Conversations, hushed but earnest, revolve around past raids, close calls, and the hope of safe passage. The emotional weight is palpable. Survival depends on trust and discipline. Every man understands that mutiny or discord could doom the entire venture. This fragile solidarity is forged in the crucible of hardship, where loyalty is both a necessity and a lifeline. The crew's cohesion reflects a broader Viking ethos, where social bonds and shared risk are the foundation of both maritime success and cultural identity. A merchant caught deceiving customers is dragged through the marketplace, his face flushed with shame as the crowd murmurs disapproval. This public shaming is a vital mechanism maintaining market integrity. Reputation in Viking trade was fragile currency. Dishonesty threatened not only individual fortunes but communal trust. Market justice was swift, and public fraud led to fines, ostracism, or expulsion, effectively ending a trader's career. This social enforcement complemented formal guild rules, ensuring honesty remained the norm. Merchants guarded their names fiercely, knowing that rumors of deceit spread faster than silver coins. The fear of social exclusion created powerful incentives to uphold ethical conduct. Vendors competed not just on price and quality, but on their standing within the community. In a world where written contracts were scarce, reputation functioned as the primary guarantee. The marketplace became a microcosm of Viking society's values, where trust and honor were as crucial as commerce itself. Economic anthropologist Dr. Sigrid Thomsen offers insight into the complex social fabric underpinning Viking trade. In Viking commerce, economic exchange was inseparable from kinship ties and ritual bonds. She explains, every handshake wasn't merely a transaction, it was a pact embedded with social meaning and a hedge against violence. The camera cuts to archival market scenes and reenactments of oath ceremonies, highlighting the performative nature of trade. Oath Brother alliances created durable networks of trust across hostile lands, blending commerce with family loyalty. Thompson elaborates on how these bonds reduced uncertainty and facilitated cooperation where formal law was weak or absent. The intertwining of commerce and kinship helped sustain trade routes and forge political alliances critical for survival. This social psychology of Viking trade reveals a world where economics and culture were profoundly interconnected, reinforcing the other. The legacy of these social contracts underscores the importance of trust as a fragile but vital fabric holding Viking society together. As torchlight flickers over the twilight market, the camera slowly pans across wool bales stacked high, intertwining threads coming into focus. The narration reflects, in this world, trust was spun, like wool, delicate yet vital, constantly woven and rewoven to keep trade alive and traders safe. The market's glow fades gently into the night, leaving viewers with a metaphor of vulnerability and resilience. The narrative underscores how every handshake and oath was a stitch in the vast tapestry of Viking commerce. Trust, ever fragile, demanded vigilance, and yet it was the foundation of a complex system that sustained economies and connected distant communities. Through shared risk, ritual, and kinship, Viking traders navigated a world of danger with social contracts stronger than steel. The scene closes on a close-up of interlaced wool fibers, a tangible symbol of the human bonds beneath the commerce. This fragile fabric of trust remains a timeless testament to the enduring power of social connection in the face of uncertainty. The underdeck cargo hold is packed tight with bales swaddled in oiled linen, their surfaces gleaming faintly with natural resins. Between the bales, cedar shavings form a thick, aromatic bed, releasing subtle antifungal compounds that linger in the cool, dim hold. The narration unfolds, revealing how Viking traders combated the ever-present threat of moisture. To stave off the sea's damp menace, wool bales were swaddled in oiled linens, soaked in natural resins. Beneath lay cedar shavings, releasing antifungal compounds, transforming cargo holds into living preservers. The faint scent of cedar mingles with the earthy, resinous aroma, while shadows flicker as sailors move cautiously among the cargo. This ingenious layering of natural materials created a microclimate that shielded precious fleece from rot and mildew during long voyages. The emotional weight of this silent battle against decay underscores the traders' determination to protect their livelihood, turning the hold into a sanctuary where nature's gifts were harnessed in a delicate balance of survival and commerce. Bundles of dried lavender, juniper, twigs, and birch bark are carefully tucked into every crevice among the wool bales, their fragrances weaving through the air like invisible guardians. The narration reveals the secret to Viking pest control. Fleeting moths and greedy rodents met their match in fragrant oils steeped into the cargo. Lavender, juniper, and birch acted as eco-friendly sentinels, guarding the wool from devouring pests. The sharp, fresh scents contrast against the salty temps of the sea air, creating an aromatic shield that masked the scent of wool and deterred vermin. The scene captures the tactile ritual of pressing aromatic bundles into place, while the soft rustle of herb-laden cloth fills the hold. Emotionally, this natural defense system evokes a sense of intimate care and resourcefulness. Partnership with the Earth's botanical allies, protecting treasures worth fortunes. The aromatic barrier speaks of sustainability and ancient biotech wisdom, a silent but potent line of defense against destruction. On the deck, workers methodically sprinkle coarse salt over freshly sheared fleece before packing it into bundles. The narration explains salt curing drew out moisture and staved decay, an age-old preservation technique adapted for fleece. This simple ritual lengthened shelf life on voyages fraught with risk. The visual captures salt crystals glittering against soft wool, contrasting with the damp sea breeze that threatened spoilage. The tactile sensation of gritty salt mixing with wool fibers is palpable, while a faint crunch echoes under calloused hands. The emotional undercurrent is one of ritualistic care and pragmatic necessity, salt as both preservative and talisman, safeguarding wealth through alchemy rooted in tradition. This act transforms raw fleece into a durable commodity, fit to endure storms and time, illustrating the delicate interplay between human ingenuity and natural preservation. A rough-hewn bale is pried open, revealing concealed contents. A gleaming iron dagger coiled with a pouch of silver coins hidden within layers of fleece. The narration uncovers the strategy. False bales acted as decoys, hiding arms or treasure. Should pirates board, these diversions bought precious moments, sometimes lives. The camera lingers on the contrast between soft wool and cold metal, emphasizing the calculated deception embedded within the cargo. The tense stillness of the scene is punctuated by the subtle clink of coins and the sharp edge of weapons, a silent testament to constant danger. Emotionally, this hidden arsenal evokes both cunning and desperation, a clandestine shield against betrayal and attack. These false bales represent the fusion of commerce and combat, where survival demanded both trust and trickery beneath the veneer of trade. Close-ups reveal intricately knotted cords securing each wool bundle, their fibers carved with tiny rune-scriptic tally marks that encode ownership and journey details. The narration reveals their dual purpose. Runic tally knots sealed each bundle, encoding ownership and journey details. Any tampering snapped runes and knots an ancient alarm system. The camera traces a knot breaking under slight pressure, symbolizing breach and betrayal. The faint rustle of cords under tightening hands fills the hold with tension. Emotionally, these runic seals embody a fusion of symbolic and practical security. Woven messages that guarded not only cargo but trust itself. The runes stand as sentinels, binding the fate of trader and bale alike. A tactile testament to Viking ingenuity in safeguarding fragile economic lifelines amid uncertainty. Artisans brush thick pitch along every seam of the wooden hull, their hands skilled and steady as the dark resin glistens under torchlight. The narration details pitch-sealed hull seams and interior hold surfaces, keeping water at bay and wool dry. This waterproofing was essential to safeguard fragile, costly cargo. The rich smell of tar and smoke permeates the air, mingling with the salty sea breeze filtering in through the deck hatch. The tactile contrast between sticky pitch and rough wood speaks of hands shaping protection against nature's assault. Emotionally, This layer of defense evokes resilience and foresight, a marriage of craftsmanship and survival instinct. Pitch sealing transformed the ship into a fortress against water's relentless advance. A floating bastion preserving Viking commerce against the unforgiving sea. A detailed cross-section animation reveals the wool bale's layered defenses. Coarse grass soaked in resin, wrapped snugly in oiled linen, aromatic herbs tucked inside, all compressed into a compact ecosystem. The narration explains. Each wool bale was a miniature ecosystem. Layers working in concert to repel pests, moisture, and rotan, early example of biological packaging. The visualization animates moisture attempting to penetrate, only to be blocked by successive natural barriers. Soft breezes carry the scents of cedar and lavender, while the tactile sense of tightly packed fibers communicates security. Emotionally, this microhabitat symbolizes harmony between human craft and natural biology, sophisticated system balancing fragility and fortitude. This integrated protection reveals the Vikings' deep understanding of ecological materials and their application in preserving precious goods during perilous journeys. An animated overlay sweeps through the underdeck hold, showing resin-soaked grass layers cushioning wool bales, oil wraps, sealing fibers, and rue-knotted cords binding the bundles securely. Professor Leif Gunnarsson's voice comments. Viking Naz were prototype container ships, siege bale, engineered to survive sea, sabotage, and time. Cut to Dr. Ingrid Falk, who adds, bug-derived oils and plant tinctures acted as natural preservative sustainable biotech of its day. The camera lingers on the synchronized choreography of these risk reduction methods, each working in unison. The ambient hum of waves blends with soft, rhythmic chanting, underscoring the harmony between nature and human ingenuity. Emotionally, the scene celebrates Viking craftsmanship as a pinnacle of ancient sustainable design, sophisticated, holistic approach to maritime trade that transformed fragile wool into enduring wealth. The visual synthesis leaves viewers with a profound appreciation for the complex, layered defense woven into every voyage. Stacks of gleaming steel containers rise at a sprawling modern port, each one identical, modular, secure, and engineered for efficiency. The camera cuts to the shadowy hold of a Viking Nair, where resin-coated wool bales are meticulously packed, their surfaces shining with natural waterproofing. Narration cuts in. Modern supply chains rely on standardized ISO containers, modular, stackable, and sealed tight. Vikings lacked steel boxes, but engineered their own modularity. Resin-sealed wool bales acted as watertight units, icily counted, loaded, and protected. The tactile sense of rough wool compressed into neat, water-resistant parcels contrasts sharply with the cold precision of metal boxes. The scene evokes admiration for ancient ingenuity cargo units designed not by industry but by hand, balancing flexibility with durability. Emotionally, this innovation bridges eras, an echo of the same human drive to parcel and protect precious goods amidst uncertainty. The resin sheen glimmers as light filters through the ship's deck, a primitive container system born of necessity and craft. Digital screens flicker in a modern warehouse control room, displaying real-time RFID data tracing each bale's journey across oceans and borders. Cut to close-ups of tightly knotted cords on Viking wool bundles, each inscribed with tally runes, a physical ledger of ownership and passage. Narration observes, today, RFID tags and blockchain track provenance with unbreakable digital chains. Vikings used tally runes, knotted cords, encoding shipment details and ownership physical signatures, securing every bale's journey. Fingers tighten knots, data streams flow in parallel. The sensory experience contrasts smooth digital precision with the worn, fibrous textures of knotted cords. Emotionally, this parallel highlights the timeless need for trust and verification. From rune to radio signal, human commerce is built on the ability to see and authenticate the tangible and intangible, stitching together stories of goods in motion. Inside a refrigerated cargo hold, cold mist wafts as workers inspect chilled wool bales, their breath visible in the icy air. Transition to the cramped underdeck of a nar, where cedar shavings lie beneath oiled wool bundles, the air thick with natural scents of resin and herb. Narration explains. Cold chain refrigeration halts spoilage in today's perishables. Vikings relied on aromatic cedar and resin, layered as natural antifungals and desiccants do. Keep wool dry and fresh on long voyages. The sensory juxtaposition is striking. Sterile chill versus earthy warmth. The camera captures the subtle shimmer of condensation on plastic versus the fibrous textures of wool and cedar. Emotionally, both methods represent humanity as ongoing battle against decay, ancient preservation, echoing modern technology's quest to extend life and value. A bank of CCTV cameras swivels silently over a modern port. Guards patrol quietly, and alarms hum softly in the background. Contrast this with the deck of a Viking ship where armed crew members stand vigilant, axes gleaming in torchlight, while false bales concealing weapons and coins line the rails. Narration continues. Modern ports deploy cameras and guards. Vikings armed crews and rigged false bales to mislead pirates. Both aim to deter theft and protect precious cargo through layered defenses. The sounds of faint mechanical whirs and radio chatter give way to the clink of metal and whispered orders on deck. Emotionally, the scene captures continuity in human security tactics, the same primal need to guard wealth against unseen threats, combining technology and cunning to hold the line. Close up on runic inscriptions carved deep into woolsack fibers, the grooves catching light. Transition to vibrant digital maps, tracking GPS signals and overlaying supply chain data across the globe. Narration reflects. Visibility in supply chains is paramount. Vikings carved runes as cargo markers, a tactile form of tracking. Today's GPS and cloud platforms offer real-time oversight, evolving the same essential principle. The camera lingers on fingers, tracing ancient marks before cutting to data analysts' monitoring screens. Sensory details merge the rough texture of carved cords with the sterile glow of digital interfaces. Emotionally, this underscores an unbroken human obsession. The need to see and control the movement of goods to preserve trust and prevent loss. In a bright artisan studio, hands gently stir dye vats filled with vivid, natural insect pigments, scarves drying in sunlight on rustic lines. Contrast this with industrial textile plants pumping out synthetic fabrics, chemical effluent draining into rivers. Narration reveals ancient bug dyes and plant preservatives echo today's slow fashion and circular economy movements, both valuing sustainability, waste reduction, and natural resource cycles. The sensory contrast is palpable. Sweet, earthy aromas of natural dyes against the sterile chemical tang of factories. Emotionally, the scene weaves a narrative of ecological wisdom rediscovered. Continuity between medieval respect for nature's cycles and modern environmental urgency. Interview snippets play. Dr. Emma Clark speaks passionately about cargo isolation and defense, while Dr. Navin Patel discusses the importance of visibility. Both intercut with scenes of NAS braving rough seas and modern container ports humming with activity. Dr. Clark states, whether Viking or modern, isolating cargo, monitoring its journey, and defending it from threat is the trader's timeless playbook. Dr. Patel adds, visibility, be it rune or radio signal, is the currency of trust across centuries. The narration ties these insights together, emphasizing the enduring principles that govern trade risk management. Emotionally, the segment celebrates human ingenuity across Erazan's unbroken chain of strategy, vigilance, and adaptation. The montage unfolds. Viking nardex, resin-sealed wool bales, transitioning smoothly to towering container stacks and cranes lifting steel boxes in modern ports. The narration closes. From resin-sealed bales in wooden hulls to steel containers on giant cranes. One truth remains. Risk is constant, and so is human ingenuity to tame it. The sensory tapestry blends the creak of wooden ships with the mechanical roar of cranes. The salty sea breeze with the hum of urban industry. Emotionally, the sequence offers a poetic reflection on continuity, a testament to humanity's relentless quest to master the dangers of trade, weaving together past and present in a shared story of courage, craft, and survival. Sunset paints the harbor in deep crimsons and golds as empty wool bales lie stacked beside moored nares, their dark silhouettes etched against the fading light. The gentle lapping of waves mingles with the distant cry of seabirds, evoking centuries of perilous voyages. For Viking traders, wool was far more than mere fabric, it was life itself, a fragile thread of wealth, reputation, and survival woven into each fleece. They risked raging storms, treacherous seas, hostile swords, and the relentless spectre of scurvy to transport this precious cargo. Their journeys carved new paths that would forever shape the economic tapestry of Europe. Eirik the trader stands barefoot on the shore, the hollow echo of his empty cargo hold, a quiet testament to a gamble well won. His weathered face reflects a mix of exhaustion and triumph, as coins exchanged for wool promise both profit and legacy. Cut to a modern shipper scanning a barcode, loading fleece into a sleek truck. The rhythm of scanning beeps and engine hums form a modern chorus that echoes the ancient voyage, different centuries. Same pulse of trade and risk. Trade demands courage, the courage to face the unknown, to gamble life and limb for connection. From the wooden decks of medieval Naz to the humming logistics of global supply chains, the story endures. We risk death and disaster for the threads that bind us all. Next time you pull on a wool sweater, remember the adventurers who spilled sweat and sometimes blood to bring it to you. Their daring lives woven invisibly into the fabric you wear. The final shot lingers on a single tuft of wool caught on a weathered mooring post, gently drifting in the tide, a silent symbol of risk, reward, and the enduring human spirit.